We watch a lot of C-SPAN around here, especially making the Obama deception that Congressman Louie Gohmert appears in briefly, and making the new Obama film that I'll soon tell you the name of, comes out in mid-October. But really, he is on the mark. He's always up at the front, late at night, early in the morning, fighting the gun-grabbing agenda, the hate speech agenda, restricting the First Amendment, fighting the cap and trade to take over our country. He's the guy I always see now when we're watching, like nobody else, up there energetically fighting when they're trying to not let him read the bills, when they're ramming through all forms of corruption. He was there fighting the banker takeover bill back in October of last year. He's now fighting Obama and getting called partisan when he's not. He's standing up for the Bill of Rights, Constitution. And like myself, he's also somewhat of a history fan. And he's a big supporter and fan of my idol, George Washington, that the media doesn't ever really talk about or kind of puts on a pedestal because they don't want you knowing about George Washington, because he would then become an example for new George Washingtons to stand up to tyranny today. So for the next 25 minutes or so, Congressman Louie Gohmert joins us, serving his third term in the U.S. State House of Representatives. Congressman Louie Gohmert proudly represents the 1st District of Texas, which encompasses over 12 counties stretching for nearly 120 miles down the state's eastern border, including where my family's from. Representative Gohmert is developing innovative solutions to jumpstart our economy and offering practical alternatives to the government's bailout frenzy. His federal income tax holiday gained widespread national support from the grassroots level to national leaders, allowing taxpayers to decide how best to spend their hard-earned money. Louie has repeatedly called for an end to socialization of our economy. Prior to being elected to serve in the Congress, Louie was elected to 3 terms as district judge in Smith County, Texas. He has later appointed by Texas Governor Rick Perry to complete a term as Chief Justice of the 12th Court of Appeals. And Representative Congressman Louie Gohmert, sir, great to have you here with us.
Well, great to be with you, Alex, but that was such a great introduction. I'm afraid to talk anymore and screw it up.
Well, you know, we watch C-SPAN every day. And I have the guys selecting out clips of what you're doing as we try to sift through all these for the film. And I tell you, you are an attack dog for liberty and freedom. If we had more people like you, we wouldn't be turning into communist Russia.
Well, it is heartbreaking what's going on around here. It just, you see this stuff and you go, how can you do this? This has been done before. You go back and read Morgenthau, the Secretary of Treasury's own private diary in 1940, where he says, we've spent more money than ever in history and we're no better off. We've still got the record unemployment. I mean, all this stuff is not new. We're just trying to do the same things and expecting a different result.
But the bankers, as you have eloquently said, they like it. They're getting to direct the economy. They're getting to play the part of savior to a crime. I mean, they hit the iceberg, and then they're the hero.
Isn't that incredible? And one of the things, you know, it's now gotten popular to say everybody ought to read the bill. I was on the floor last September when this bailout started saying, guys, you've got to read the bill. You'll know this is not something we do if you'll just read it. And I tell you, Alex, I don't know if you're aware, but you know, in that bill last September, and of course we didn't vote for it until October. We voted down the first time, and then the stock market fell 777 points, and then the president I like so much was able to twist arms and get people to vote for this crappy thing. But anyway, in that bill, it raised the debt ceiling by $1.3 trillion. So when I saw that, I went, whoa, there's something else at play here than just the $700 billion slush fund. And, Alex, I went through looking, okay, where are the loopholes that might allow him to spend more than this? And what I saw was, you know what, this provision that allows him to hire anybody he wants to or pay anybody he needs to help him manage this TARP stuff, went, holy cow, this is the Golden Sachs Benevolent Fund right here. And we can't even find out how much has gone to Goldman Sachs, but you probably noticed they had their biggest record profit the second quarter this year, $3.44 billion.
Well, let's get into that in a moment. We had Congressman Brad Sherman on during early October, and then we had the clip of Senator Inhofe where Paulson, who was working with the head of the New York Fed at the time in tandem, now Treasury Secretary Geithner, came in to close meetings and said, we're going to have martial law and do this anyways if you don't get behind it. Then they went out and said, we're going to have a depression because Congress wouldn't pass it.
Yep.
That was financial terrorism.
Yep.
They drove down the market. There's no doubt. Can you speak to what happened there?
Well, I sure can. Actually, this was in a private conference call when all of this first came up. Bernanke and Paulson were in a conference call with the Republican members of Congress and then separately with the Democratic members of Congress. And he said, there's these toxic assets, that mortgage-backed securities that nobody will buy. They're freezing up everything. But you give me $700 billion and I can get things moving, but it's just nobody's buying them because they don't know what they're worth. When they opened it up for questions, somebody beat me to the question. I don't remember if it was Ron or who, but somebody asked the first thing that came to my mind, well, wait a minute, Secretary. If nobody knows what these are worth, how do you know you need $700 billion? And his response just sent me into orbit. It was, well, we just needed a really big number. Now, I don't know how you do business. Yes, I do. I know plenty about it. But you would never say that. That is insane. It would need a big number. And to this day, if we had not, and I say we, I was 100% against it, but if that had not passed, there's no way Obama could have gotten an $800 billion stimulus and a $400 billion land omnibus and gotten the rest of that TARP money and on and on. But what happened was the president did something presidents are never, ever supposed to do. He went out, convinced by Paulson it was the thing to do, and said, we're about to have a depression, a stock crash, bank failures, but if we give my bozo buddy over here, Paulson, $700 billion, then he can mitigate it and it won't be so bad. Now, 300 financial experts had said, all you got to do is first suspend the mark-to-market rule and allow these banks to at least carry those mortgage-backed securities, even if it's 30%. They've got mortgages. They may not be worth 100 cents on the dollar, but they're worth something. You let them be carried at 30 cents on the dollar, Washington Mutual won't fail, Wachovia won't fail, and we're going to be okay, and we can work our way through this. But I know this is cynical, but I really believe Paulson needed a couple of banks to fail to scare everybody enough so that he could get them to vote for that bill.
So we're talking, Congressman, then, about financial terrorism.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. But then that Monday, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. When the President and the Treasury Secretary say, if Congress doesn't pass this bill, the market's going to crash. Well, it didn't crash, but it did drop 777 points because they scared people. Presidents are supposed to say, we got nothing to fear but fear itself, not either do what we say or we're going to, go to hell in a handbasket. And so the market crashed. And then, I tell you, Alex, my calls went from about 1,000 to 100 against that bailout to being about 500 to 50 in favor. Just look, you may not like it, but we can't stand another 777 point drop. And I'm going to look. You may vote me out, and this was some of my biggest contributors. Look, I think the world of you may vote me out, but I have read this bill. I cannot vote for it. I'd rather lose than be on record ever vote for this sorry thing.
Well, Congressman Gohmert, we commend you because you've been proven right in hindsight. Now, going back to what you tried to mention a few minutes ago, now they use the same psychology. Always give them a new bailout they're calling for. Yep. A new Bank of the World that we're going to pay the carbon taxes to. And Al Gore says, what's wrong with paying your taxes to me? What's wrong with me making money? I mean, this is so overtly corrupt that it's even hard for me to believe. Is that the blind spot? That this is just so outrageously corrupt, so outrageously evil, seizing the whole economy, seizing GM, hacking pieces of it off to Brazil and China and Russia. I'd like you to speak to that, but then all these congressmen and senators keep asking, where's the money? Where's the money of Bernanke? And he just says, no, I will not tell you. How long can this go on, this banking dictatorship?
It shouldn't go on another day, but, and the truth is, most of the people here, they really think they're doing the right thing. They did when they were voting for the bailout and the stimulus and all this. They just really think, oh, well, we just need to do this. And I've had guys across the aisle say, look, Louie, even if you were right, we think you're wrong. Even if you were right, we can always come back and fix things. I'm going, The Soviet Union didn't get a chance to come back and fix things. They went bankrupt, and they ceased to exist. You may not get a chance to come back and fix it after you screw it up bad enough.
Well, you're right, Congressman. Russia is still in shambles from what happened under 60, 70 years of rule. Speaking of the Soviet Union, there is no doubt this country's been hijacked by foreign offshore banks. Are you supporting the bill to audit the private Federal Reserve?
100%. 100%. You know, we've heard from the other side of the aisle over and over again that we need transparency from the CIA. Well, how about some transparency from the Fed? My goodness. And Alex, you're so on top of things. I know you've been following this push, and it's just draconian, actually Machiavellian the way they're seizing power. But this push to develop what they're calling the systemic risk entities in America, whether it's